World Week for me, and of course, this is my second trip to Grand Forks.
Okay, now she should be able to hear you.
Mr. Peach, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're waiting for Commissioner Hagan. We'll just wait a few minutes and we'll convene.
Okay, thank you.
5 minutes.
Somebody just got off the elevator.
The elevator is being, so
Oh.
someone's on the way.
It's Nick. She better not be
Oh, is it
running in
Nick?
her condition.
That's her.
Yeah.
She's with Nick.
Yeah, both of them, yeah.
Broadcast.
Yeah. Oh, they are, no. I said, she better not be running in that condition.
I know. I don't run at all.
Hey, are you going to Discovery tonight?
Yeah, the color run.
I'm doing crossing guard there.
Are you?
During the
Interesting. So we were not gonna go do it because that badge ride is tonight and the longest cable, and I was gonna try and sneak in both.
You said they were.
Ever since last Friday, are we going color run? Did you get a t-shirt? Are you gonna come with me? I'm like, so we're doing the color run.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
Good. Yeah, he's really excited.
It's a good, so.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, it's ready to start. The Administrative Services Committee for September 14th, 2023 is now in session. Hagan and Ross are present in the room, and Commissioner Peach is available on Zoom. So at this point, we're going to be talking, the purpose of the meeting is to be talking about the preliminary budget, which we will have to finalize next week. And I think the easiest way to do this is to turn it over to the lady who knows everything. That would be Debbie Nelson.
Well, that's not true, but thank you very much.
Compared to us.
Yeah.
So I have put a packet on each of your tables to show you the 2024 preliminary budget. I do have it up on the screen as well. I did send a packet to Cindy, so she has that information. So this is the preliminary budget that was approved August 1st. It's a 6.84 mil increase. So if you look at the bottom corner of that levy sheet, the very top sheet, we're $4.8 million greater than we were last year, or 6.84 mils greater. 3.1 million is from the general fund, or 5.19 mil increase. There's $278,000 increase for the road fund. That's 0.02 mil increase. Now, the only reason there's a 0.02 mil increase is because we approved the budget before the mills are finalized. So we don't know the values for sure. So what you're approving is dollars, not mils. And so last year, when the preliminary budget was approved, it was 10 mils per highway. The dollar amount is, or the valuation of the mill changed. And so it ended up being 9.98 mils that we levied. So this year it's at 10 mils, but it's the dollars that you're approving. It's not the mils you're approving. So 3.7 million is $278,000 greater than it was last year. Capital construction is $670,000 greater than it was last year, or 1.28 mils. The weed control is less than it went down $637, and it's a decrease of 0.19 mils. So then all those additional levies that are listed there are an increase of 0.54 mils, or $777,000. And if we want to go, let's go through those additional levies so we know where they came from. So the Historical Society was a resolution by the county commission. The senior citizens was a vote of the people. The emergency fund, the law, the North Dakota Century Code allows us to levy up to 2 mils, so we can be prepared at the county level for a natural disaster. We currently have $1.2 million in that fund. We are allowed to keep up to what 5 mils would generate, and that's 1.8. So we're under. We're doing a little bit just to keep it up. Veterans service, that was the resolution. Economic development was a resolution. The extension services was a vote of the people prior to 1974. The health department resolution, special assessments. Although we're a government entity and we're exempt from taxation, we're not exempt from specials. And so that's what that's there for. Then we have the state and garrison, which is not us at all. The water resource board was approved by resolution. The county library was approved by resolution. Red River Joint Water was resolution. Ambulance was a vote of the people. Airport and soil was a resolution. So that's where they all came from. Really, we can't do anything with those at this point. Can't do anything with the weed or capital construction. I don't think you want to do anything with the road. But the general fund, we're at 5.19 mils greater than we were last year, for $3.1 million. So I put together that second page in your package shows you how did we get here. So I put them in order by dollars. We have 5% salary increase for all employees October 1st, 2023. The cost for 2024 will be $585,000 or 2.06 mils. I think that's a little, that would be difficult thing to take away because you approved it effective October 1st, 2023. And if you took it away January 1, it would be a pay cut for employees. There are 88 out-of-market positions, 88 in the general fund. There's a total of 112, 24 of them are in the highway department. The highway department is funded by the Highway Distribution Fund. It has no impact on the levy. Those 88 out-of-market positions is $500,000 or 1.76. If you got a spreadsheet from me earlier, that number was higher. When I recalculated it and did it by department, I found it was 500. So it's a little bit lower than it was, and it's 1.76. Doesn't change, it does not change the 6.84. The sheriff's deputies increase that took place July 1, the cost for 2024 is $275,000 or 0.97 mils. There again, I don't think you want to take that out after you've already given it. Health insurance, we had good news on our health insurance. We were told to estimate between 4 and 10% increase. We put 10% in the budget and came back no increase for next year. So that's going to be a savings of 0.81 mils, $231,000. So that 6.84 mils that we were talking about is going to be lowered by 0.81. There were 36 regraded positions in the general fund. There was also a position in veterans and highway that were regraded that were separate from the general fund. The impact on the general fund for the regraded positions is $216,000 or 0.76 mils. CVIC, I would suggest using ARPA funds for 2024 and take the $203,000 out of the general fund, saving 0.72 mils. Step increases. To give a step increase next year would be 191,000 or 0.67 mils. There are 2 additional youth assessment center positions that were requested. That's 174,000, 0.61 mils. NDPERS public safety plan for all sworn officers would get additional cost 1.78%, and it's an overall cost of $122,000 for 0.43 mils. That's something you can decide if you want to keep it in there, if you want to take it out and just keep it at the main plan, or allow the employee to pay difference themselves. So those are options you can also consider.
Was just the sheriff's department?
No, it's all sworn officers, correctional center
yeah,
and the youth assessment center.
And use assessment, yeah.
Right.
So there was some local assistance federal grant dollars that were applied for, and that's $100,000 that we received that could be used to offset the 2024 expenses. If we do that, and I suggest we do, we'd save 0.28 mils. There's an IT position, $94,306, 0.33 mils, the same for an HR position. Buildings and grounds position is $80,000 or 0.29 mils. We've already hired this person. I don't think you, so I think it's too late to do anything about that position. The detox center increased $35,000. You heard that they are finding difficult to hire people. They need the increase so they can hire staff. So that $35,000 is included, 0.12 mils increase. Juneteenth holiday was included, about $16,000 or 0.06 mils. And reclassifying a sheriff's deputy and an IT position. That's $2.9 million that was included. I haven't listed exactly the 3.1 million, but those are the majority of things. So that's it. Yeah, go ahead.
The Juneteenth holiday, why you'd be spending that money on salaries anyway. Why is there a $15,000 number in there for that?
Because it's a holiday, there are places that are working 24/7.
Talking about
The people that have to.
the holiday pay,
What they pay.
just holiday pay, okay.
So, I think we would definitely do the, health insurance savings of 0.81. We're definitely going to do, well, not definitely, I would suggest that you use the, ARPA for the CPIC, $203,000, and that would be a savings of 0.72.
Mr. Chair, I would agree with that.
And then using the local assistance, federal dollars at 100,000 to offset. And if you did those three things, you save 1.81 mils. I also have listed in handouts that I've given you, each department in the general fund and increases in their department. I didn't, if there were decreases, I didn't have them here. These are just the increased items. And you can look through them, and if there's anything that you think should be removed or question, you could talk to the department and maybe make a decision at the next meeting, the final meeting on Tuesday. The correctional center has $250,000 increases that I have listed here. About 30 items that they are included in that 250, the largest being medical, $35,000. I think it's really difficult to say we don't need that because it's an unknown factor. And you can see what else is increased in this budget. County administrator, $30,000 for the base retention. It was added after the 2023 budget was approved. And so it looks a little deceiving, because I think you actually had a decrease from the increase.
It went from 121, historically from 121 to 81 to 30.
You don't retain the generals anymore.
What is the additional 30 years for?
The 30 that was added back in, that's, so the last budget session, the commission had decided not to renew the contract, so it wasn't in my budget. And then there was a decision to bring them back, so there had to be a budget amendment to pay the contract. But the commission's opted not to renew this time, so.
So in the finance and tax department, we had a $17,800 increase for auditing fees. If you take that out, I won't be able to pay them, so I think we need to keep that in. The association dues are increasing $1,500. Have to pay that. Tax equalization, $2,500. IT, the $25,000 listed there. Also, the health insurance would go down if that position was removed, because this includes their new position. Employee benefits, the insurance group is going up 50,000. Buildings and grounds, the health insurance is from their new employee. Gas and oil are going up. Election, it's an election year in 2024. I need money to run that election, so that's why we have a $211,000 increase. PSAP has an increase of $70,226. There again, salaries. They need additional funds to make sure they can keep themselves staffed. County memberships went down. Contracted services, if we take out the 203 for CBIC, which I think you will, that won't be here. The detox center, 35,000. Utilities are going up 46,000. the sheriff has vehicles, law enforcement, automation, shooting range, youth assessment center. Hourly employees, health insurance. That's for the new employees. Shelter care and then their admin or attendant care went down and their performance-based standard. So that's the general fund. What are the thoughts?
Well, we won't be deciding things, even though we're all here, because this is administrative services committee. I think the low hanging fruit, of course, is the taking out the CVIC and using ARPA funds. It's an important agency, but it's nice to not have to come out of our general fund this year. So I
Right.
think that's an easy one to take out of the budget. We'll need a motion on that, I assume, on Tuesday, because otherwise it would come out of the general fund, right?
Right.
Okay. Other comments, anybody?
Yeah,
Commissioner Roth?
okay. You know, I've been studying this thing for about a week or so. My feeling is that the IT position and the HR position not go forward this year. I also feel that the let's see here, what was it? Reclassification of a deputy sheriff to sergeant. I think we want to keep that. They additionally wanted another person, but I kind of told them not at this time.
That didn't go into the preliminary budget.
No, they did not.
Okay.
No. So other than that, with the savings from the health insurance and the CVIC and the that $100,000, which will save 0.28 mils. I think that could be a substantial decrease in the budget.
So with the things he's discussed, we would go from 6.84 to what?
So he took off 2.47.
And 4.37.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, oh, go ahead.
Either chair. I would thoroughly be in support of the CVIC. I have a little bit of concern of the IT position and the HR position. IT is really trying to ramp up. Plus, we've also got some new upgrades that are very important. They are budgeted as well, but that has to be done by staff. So I would support that IT position as well as HR. If we have one person get sick or one person out of the HR department, say doing payroll, we have to find someone else or bring someone else in to do that payroll if someone were to have some type of a long-term illness or whatever. And those, I think, are two very important roles. We can play the game and try to add them in the middle of the year like other programs have done, or we're doing it the right way while we're looking at it at the beginning of the beginning of the year before with the budget. So I would, I realize that there is going to be an increase, but for how many years have we let the school board go higher or let the park district go higher and we stayed the same? I think we need to do business as we need to do business, and we need to do it exceptionally. So I would not be in support of eliminating 2 positions, also not in support of eliminating any increases for staff. This is important. We want our staff to stay. We want them to be happy in their jobs, and we want the productivity that we expect with the wages that they're receiving.
Thank you. Anybody else comment? Mr. Rusted?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the youth assessment center positions, they're asking for 2. Did you weigh in on that? Or
No, I did, I want to keep those
Which one?
because we've got supervisors that are working the weekends. You know, they don't have enough staff.
Oh, the youth assessment?
Yeah,
And yeah, remind me, I don't know if you had told everybody, but bring an income off of that, so that's.
Yeah.
That's right. We received $200,000 this year that was not budgeted for. Not anticipated that we'd receive that money.
I guess I'll follow up on, I don't see the reason to add a holiday.
What?
I don't see any reason to add a holiday.
that Juneteenth.
Yeah. To me, that's just silly.
I think we originally had talked about that if the state of North Dakota went with Juneteenth, that the county would go with it also. But until that happened, we weren't going to. And the state is going to it, I guess. Isn't that basically what happened? Madam Auditor?
I guess I don't know that. Is that true?
Yes,
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I believe it was the discussion that if the state did grant that as a holiday, the county would have to do so, but it wasn't an automatic
okay.
trigger motion. So I don't think this board has an obligation, but that is an option that you could take.
Okay. We didn't do a recent resolution on that, when the state went with, we didn't,
We talked about
still,
it.
okay,
We just talked about it.
yeah. All right.
Basically, the board said if the state does that, the board here will revisit.
But not necessarily do it.
But one of the things we have to remember with that holiday, then we've got state employees in the county zone. So then how is that gonna work? Some work because they don't get the holiday, but then others do get the holiday because they're a county paid staff person or a state paid staff person. I think that gets to be too muddied of the waters if in one department, some have to work and some do not have to work. Because there are state employees that are in our zone. So that would be kind of confusing, like, oh, you get to work, but you don't get to work. We've had quite a few issues with the state at this point where we've had employees that are county employees going to the state because they're giving some better benefits. I would choose to keep that in just because to make it fair throughout that particular department, which is fairly large.
Not sure I understand that issue. The state employees will get that kind of a pay, holiday pay. Okay? The people in human services. Ms. Theo, can you answer, can you explain that to us?
Well, one, the state does not have it as a paid holiday at this point. So that's kind of a moot point. The state has it as a recognized holiday, just like we do. The state does not have it as a closed paid holiday. So just so you're aware, they haven't made that change. So,
And that would have had to been made in the last legislative
Right.
session, right?
Oh,
exactly.
all right.
I just wanted you to have the current information, so.
Thank you, Ms. Steele. I misspoke.
I would concur with Commissioner Rusted that it, and take that out.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, myself or Ms. Thiel or someone, we could verify that. No, I don't think it's paid either, but I mean, there's been discussion of going in that direction, but that's what I.
Right, I just went up to the North Dakota State website to determine, and if they don't have it listed as one of their holidays.
So what does it mean as a holiday here for the county then?
It's just that we recognize that it's a holiday, but we don't close for business, and so there's no holiday pay attached to it.
Okay, I thought
That's the way the state-
I thought the state had taken it. Then.
Yeah, I thought they did it too.
Oh, I, all right.
All right.
Unless there's something updated that's not on the Secretary of State's website.
So how many, what would a real decrease be then of Juneteenth?
I put it in there already, 0.06, we're at 2.53, except for the fact.
Oh, okay.
I've got both, eliminating both of the IT and the HR positions, and I don't know if that's I heard one commissioner say, take them out, I've heard one say, leave them in. So what would the other three like to do with the two positions?
I'd be okay with taking them out. I know it's hard to swallow and I hate to say not to have an additional employee, but we can barely afford to pay our current employees the way that it is, so. That's my thought.
Commissioner
On further
removal,
yeah, and also with the youth assessment ones, but I don't think I'd support that.
so, and
Well,
Commissioner Hagan, you.
Yeah, It's one of the things where it's a difficult call to make, because both of those are positions that we would like to have more fully staffed. But this year, we have gone over the top to try catch up the employees who are already here. And, you know, I would think that the increased pay and everything else will be kind of an incentive to everybody that we care about them and we aren't adding more people willy-nilly. I would like to add both those positions early in next year if we can do it. I'm not sure that we should do it now. Maybe because of the other changes we're making, maybe it isn't too costly to include them. So I'm not gonna make up my mind on that until talk more.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
So everything you said is the reasoning, for my opinion as well. I think that we worked really hard to get the folks that are already with us, getting closer to market rate. And in some cases, we're not there yet. And I think, so I've heard some very compelling arguments from department heads about, you know, keeping quality staff when they can go to another county and they're totally fit and qualified for that job and get more money. And so I think to me, it's much our priority to keep our current staff that are already onboarded, already familiar, already in our community, have roots, likely children, et cetera, than it is to add more at this time. And that's why even though the youth assessment positions are potentially money-making, I just don't know that I maybe don't have quite enough information on exactly the youth
See,
assessment.
they don't have the staff to handle it. They've got supervisors that are working all week, plus working weekends.
So we're at risk of losing them, is what you're saying?
Well, pretty much, well,
For now,
You-
in general.
you can't work them 7 days a week. Go ahead.
So I'm not sure if you know, but we used to just be strictly detention. We took over attendant care in August of 2022, and we took over certified shelter care in April. So we run 3 programs now. So there is a minimum required number of people that have to be on duty at a time. So I have to have so many officers. We're basically overworking our full-time people just to adequately staff at this point.
The qualifications for like those type of positions, are they similar to a correctional officer?
Yes.
So there's no way of kind of,
We're cross-trained, so everybody can work in different locations. And I have to, if there's 6 kids in shelter care, I have to have 2 staff down there. I always have to have at least 1 male and 1 female in detention for the requirements. And then if I have a kid in attendant care, I have to have the staff there as well.
I guess my question is, so if there's, let's just say we're light in the jail, I understand that apparently doesn't happen often, but if we were, could those officers then come and work assessment, or is it not?
I mean, they could, but we do a background check on child neglect and abuse for all the staff that we have, and I don't believe they do that at the adult correctional center.
Don't check for child abuse?
They do a criminal background check, but it's not the same requirement form that they have to have for working with juveniles.
Wouldn't that show up in a background check though? So convicted of child abuse is.
No, it's not a
Is it-
conviction. It's whether or not there've been complaints, because not all 960 reports end up going towards criminal charges. A child may end up being removed, but that doesn't mean that that person ended up in the court system under Haley's purview. So it's a different piece. And they're not required to check about child abuse and neglect at the jail because they're only dealing with adults.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I can maybe clarify a little bit. I think what they're looking at with the juvenile detention staff is I believe it's called the Child Abuse or Neglect Index,
Yes.
which isn't necessarily a criminal conviction. It's also if somebody has a finding made through the social services process. So that could be their own child, that could be a child under their care, but it doesn't necessarily result in a criminal offense or conviction. So it would pull up more background than a criminal background check.
So learn something every day.
With respect to my comments on the taking care of our own people, the fact is we've done that. And then the question is, can we still afford to add these 2 IT positions? So I don't think it does hurt our present employees if we choose to add money in the budget for those 2 positions, IT and HR. So I want to keep an open mind on that one. What the other discussion is before we finalize on Tuesday. I think we can possibly do both things. That's my point. So any other comments on any
One
of
of
the,
the things, Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
one of the things we have to recognize too is that this is an election year. We're talking about, about $200,000 for the cost of the election. So as we move forward, it's going to be a little less in 2025, a little bit less pressure on the costs that we'll have dealing with the elections. So that's something to think about too. This is kind of a one-time cost that happens once every 4 years.
Well, actually, it's every 2 years, isn't it?
Or every 2, sorry.
Yeah.
Seems like the 4th year is a little bit higher though, I think. Just with turnout at the polls.
With the school lately, though, it seems like it's happening 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
It's true. It's very
Just a quick comment on that. The county is helping in the city election this year, but they're paying for that, aren't they? Aren't they? So
Yeah,
that-
they will pay
that's
our
not our
costs.
budget. Good. All right. You're looking forward to the next year, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
If we bumped up our election fees, we'd probably fill the whole budget with just what the schools do.
Okay, and what other topics do you want to talk about? The things that you laid out, anybody? Mr. Beach, any other comments you want to make before we convene next Tuesday?
No, I have no other comments to make.
Mr. Rust or Commissioner Hagan, either of you?
The only other one that I was thinking is the NDPERS public safety plan is having the employees opt in themselves. Is there a downside to that? I don't see.
That's the,
That's
as
the
we
law
said, the correction
enforcement.
center
Yeah.
and the sheriff.
Where was
I
that?
think that plan would almost parallel what the highway patrol has for retirement. Otherwise, their retirement is the same as all the other county. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So with the public, safety plan, if you move forward, the logistics of it, if you opt to also have that plan, so have the two PERS plans, the employees have the ability to opt in or out at the time. Every person moving forward would have to be on that plan, every new hire. One of the things that Ms. Nelson had talked about is the commission can choose to take on that additional
1.78.
1.78%, or that 1.78% could shift to the employee. If they opt in, or all the new hires moving forward could pay that additional 1.78%, then it wouldn't be an additional cost to the county. And what doing that does is it gives them the opportunity to retire at an earlier age with full benefits. So the reason there's a higher percentage is because you have less time. So that's one of the options. You either say, yes, we do the public service or public safety. And then if you say yes, then you say, is the additional burden coming to the county, or is the additional burden going to the employee? So no matter what, when we first roll it out, existing people would have the option to choose one or the other. But people moving forward would have to be on the public safety plan.
Well, then I have a question of how that number was arrived at on our preliminary budget. Does it assume everybody moves? Everybody who's eligible moves?
Yes. And that the county would pay for. That's what's in the budget.
So
Yeah.
if that was shifted to the employees, this would be a zero and they pay 1.78%
Yes,
more.
Yeah.
yes, and so our cost would be $122,000 less.
Mr. Ross, what do you know about that?
That would be a good comment for Sheriff Schneider.
Oh, is he?
He's on there.
Oh, good.
So,
Sure.
And that was something we had talked about.
Are you there?
Andy?
Sheriff Snyder?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
you can.
Okay. Yeah, the push on the public safety plan, it's been something that we've been working with legislatively actually through the last two sessions. This session, it was approved for all state law enforcement employees to be shifted to that plan. We tried to work actually with the state employees through the Sheriff's Association to get local law enforcement entities included as well. It wasn't going over well, so we decided, well, it's better off to support them and get something than nothing. So I guess where I'm going with this is there may be a potential in the future that it is something that is supported and assisted with by the legislature. No guarantees on that, but the trend right now throughout our state is for entities to move to this law enforcement plan. I mean, Commissioner Ross can attest to this. It is not safe to be in this business at 65 years old or 68, unless you're in primo shape physically and mentally. And we don't need individuals out trying to work in a law enforcement perspective just because they're not able to retire because they haven't hit their rule yet. So it's more of a public safety. It is a public safety plan, but it is a large safety feature. And obviously it also assists with recruitment and retention of law enforcement officers.
I think Bob could be out on the feet right now, no problem.
I had to work to rule of 108 to get out.
He didn't even need a gun, as the rumor on the street.
Question for you, Sheriff Snyder. What is the average age of retirement if you're deputy? Of course,
Chairman Engen, members of the board, honestly, I can't answer that right now for our county. It's been varying a lot the last 8 years, I guess. We actually didn't have the first retirement in the sheriff's office, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Ross, but up until about 10 years ago, Sergeant Ron Gibbons was the first person to ever retire from the sheriff's office. So it wasn't a very common trend. And now, we've had about 10 recently that, well, eight to 10 total, I'd say, in the last 18 years here that have gone. So, that varies from, some are mid 50s up to upper 60s.
I don't think I want to be on patrol.
And that, and I can speak for that too. It's like, I was in an administrative position my last 8 years. But I mean, there's things, I would go out and work at the racetrack, and I would get into scuffles out there. And probably a little too old to be doing that, but I did anyway. So it's a young man's game. And I think a plan like that would be very, very good. That plan came up when I was still on the sheriff's office. But I think at that time, Dan Hill felt it was too costly to switch over. And so we never did. So anyway.
Is there support that we could provide to apply pressure potentially in the legislature to kick in for something like this? Because it's something I've never thought about or considered before until it's presented, right? Because,
Right.
Well, you Commissioner Rustin, you look at the North Dakota State Patrol. I believe it's 3%. Isn't that what they're? I believe that's their.
Yeah, I don't remember. I
their
know
multiplier. And we're what, 2 something?
our multiplying factor is 2,
And theirs was 3.
right,
It's been for a number of years.
right. And
Mr.
it's
Chair,
changed for the new ones to lower with the first plan.
1.5, I think.
And we do know that our current ND PERS plan that we have right now, it will be January 1 of 2025 when all new hires have to shift to what's considered more traditionally a 401k kind of a plan. So a defined contribution plan instead of what we currently have, which is a defined benefit plan. If you opt for the public safety, then they stay on that defined benefit plan.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Rustin, the short answer to your question, sir, is yes, there's ways to do that. It's pressure on the legislature to.
Yeah, because to me that it after having heard it, it's almost a little disappointing that a state in the financial position that they're in wouldn't have already implemented something like that. And so I'm guessing it's lack of knowledge or understanding on their part, because just like me sitting here learning this for the first time, there's a bunch of them that probably had absolutely no idea until they, hear about it. And so it might be a matter of some emails and some phone calls to pressure them to take that heat off.
What I've been finding being on the county commission is how many things the state leads to the counties and kind of walks away from it. But
Yeah, this would be a good
education
PR
piece
piece though.
is important.
I think the state would love to be involved in something like this, because this is, it makes it look amazing.
And Commissioner Rusted, to your point, for years, and I'm talking years, the multiplier with the highway patrol's always been higher than your sheriffs or your police or whatever. And we have fought and tried to get that up through the legislature, and it has never, ever worked. Sheriff Schneider, he probably can attest to that too, that, there's a big difference between a multiplier of 2 and a multiplier of 3 when it comes to retirement.
For sure.
In fact, my son's a highway patrolman, and he said, I'm probably gonna be able to retire before you, Dad. So.
Well, I think that's worth, it's not for this meeting necessarily, right? But I think that it's definitely worth keeping this in our mind's eye and pursuing it. We all know legislators that, that may not even know this is a thing.
Exactly.
So let's let's see if there's something they can wanna do to help, because I know there is a pile of them out there that love benefiting military and law enforcement specifically, and it's pretty much the only reason they ran.
Yeah.
And so I think this is something that if we get enough people's ears kind of tilted, we might be able to switch, make some change. Help out our people that help us.
Commissioner Rusta, just a quick comment on that is I obviously do support that line of thinking, but it's not something that I want to sit and put all my coins in one bag hoping that they do something. I mean, they only meet every 2 years, and we're talking about something now that's getting ready to change prior to their next session. So I would still support the county moving forward with the public safety plan at this point.
Yeah, I wasn't even actually speaking to the county's piece of it. I was kind of speaking more holistically, like, I think this is something the state would back if the right people even knew there was a push for it.
You know, and even if we adopted something like that down the road, if the legislators decide they're gonna pick this thing up, that's all well and fine.
Alright, makes
So
more sense.
for the purpose of today, is there anyone who objects to leaving this item in the budget?
And do you want the dollar amount to be the budget line for the general fund, or do you want the increased percentage to shift to the employee?
I just think
I
we
think
leave it the
we
way
can-
it is.
We can go into public safety.
Yeah, we just leave it where the county pays it.
We don't shift it to the employees at this point. We're trying to benefit everybody throughout the whole county, and I'd like to see it stay that. Any other discussion today, or we don't take votes, but we hash out these things and talk about them. We'll have to decide on Tuesday, so now's the time to bring things up.
But is now the time to be,
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you information on Tuesday based on this preliminary budget. Everything that you had already approved is gonna be in there, you're gonna get the documents. At that meeting, if you decide what you want to take out, you can make a motion then to take them out.
one at a time? Or,
Probably so, yes.
Yeah, probably, and then, because not everyone may agree. And then, so the book you're gonna get is gonna have everything that the preliminary budget has, unless you wanna tell me today to take it out.
Will you take out the numbers
then-
on the health insurance though, and those things that are those automatic?
Yes.
And the CVIC, for example, or do we have to have a
Well,
motion? We have to have a
you-
motion on that one, I bet.
Well, you need to tell me to pay it out of ARPA, and if I have the
You can't do that
consensus
in this
today.
she could line it up right now,
Yes.
and then we have to say, okay, this is what the
Yeah,
savings
and then I'll
would be.
do it that way. If I get a consensus, I'll do it that way. And then, if you don't agree to it on Tuesday, it will be different, but,
Yeah,
yeah, if you just tell me today, I can make the booklets match what you're telling me.
Well, I don't,
So-
a couple things we don't have a consensus on yet.
You can make motions that will carry, you need to make a motion at the full board too. Make it here, and then you'll recommend it to the full board or the commission.
Well, are there any motions that anyone has to remove things from the preliminary budget? That's the question.
I'll move.
Okay.
I'll move to, thoughts are here. I'll move to remove the IT and HR positions from the preliminary budget. And we'll move to, remove Juneteenth from the preliminary budget.
Let's take, don't we need to take them one at a
I
time?
suppose we should, yeah.
Probably because not everyone's gonna agree.
Okay.
okay.
So let's start with, I'll move to remove the IT position from the preliminary budget.
Okay, motion's been made.
Second,
Seconded. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
do a roll call. Should we do a roll call?
Probably.
All right,
Okay, one at a time.
okay. Roll call, Commissioner Page,
No,
Mr. Rossett,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
and at the present time, I'm a no. But yeses, carry it here, or, yeah. Peach, no, yes, 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 and no, so 3-2. Okay, so that's what we presented, what this means, is that's what presented to the, at the
This-
regular commission meeting.
Yeah.
All right,
And then she'll be able to come up with numbers and say, this is the mill levy decrease or whatever.
next motion,
I'll move to remove the HR position of the preliminary budget.
Second.
all right. Any further discussion? Again, this time we'll start with Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mr. Rusted,
Yes.
Mr. Peach.
No,
I will vote no at the present time myself. So 3-2, that passes. Next motion,
I'd like to move to remove the June 10th, the Juneteenth holiday from the preliminary budget.
and the motion is to not have holiday pay for that.
Just
Or not be
continue on the way
closed.
we have.
We recognize the day, but we don't, not gonna have
Yeah,
holiday.
okay. Yeah, we- Motion and a second. Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mr. Rosted,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
yes,
and I guess I'll make it unanimous. Yeah, I was under the misapprehension that it was being done another way at the state, so I've got to clear that one up. Other motions,
I'll move for your low hanging fruit, Dave.
what?
I'll move for your low hanging fruit as well.
Move for what?
Low hanging fruit.
Low hanging.
Oh.
CBSC dollars.
CBAC dollars, that's a
CBSC?
no brainer, so.
Yeah. Okay,
I'll
I
second.
think we have a consensus. We will do this by acclimate, by yeah, your name. All in favor of them? Was there a second? Yes. Is there, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
And that's you, yes for, or unanimous on this one.
Do we have to make a motion for the health insurance since that technically?
You don't,
Oh, okay.
Don't have to. No, that's just not, okay.
but you wanna make a motion on the,
I would, I'm gonna make a motion on the North Dakota PERS Public Safety Plan.
Okay.
I'm gonna paste it.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
excuse me, I don't understand what the motion is.
It's the North Dakota PERS Public Safety Plan for law enforcement, for the sheriff, for the juvenile detention and corrections officers
To support it.
to support it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the issue is that the county will pay the extra percentage that we could place on the employees if we wanted to do that.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
The motion is supported with the county paying for that in its entirety.
and do we have a second?
Yeah, I
I
second.
think we did. Mr. Russell. Okay, roll call vote quickly. Commissioner Peach,
Yes,
Commissioner Rusted,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes,
and I am a yes as well, so you're not unanimous. Okay, any others that we have to deal with?
The latch fund expenses.
Pardon?
Use the latch fund to offset expenses, the $100,000.
that 100,000,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
gotta do that. I make that motion. Use the LAFCF funds to offset expenses of $100,000.
I'll second that motion.
Cindy.
I think Commissioner Hagan beat you to it. Commissioner Peach,
Okay, no problem.
believe there's a consensus on this one, so we'll ask for all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Opposed? Unanimously passed.
All right, we will put it together and bring it on Tuesday.
Okay. Any other business? Well, we can't do any other business anyway. What?
I moved to adjourn.
You're always ready. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.